Okay, then let's start lower.
Do exactly what you did. Okay, so
you start.
You go second.
Welcome to Fan Take, the series where we'll be breaking down different fandoms and their impact on the advertising industry. I'm Mackenzie, I'm the media department manager at the agency.
And I'm Ginny, an operations manager. And today we have two people in the office that love to sing in the rain and dance through life. The two biggest Broadway fans, Carolina and Blake.
OMG.
Hi.
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 Hi, I'm Blake. I am a third-year TV and film production student at the University of Florida, and I am the incoming production manager at the agency. I'm a huge fan of musical artists like Panic at the Disco, Troye Sivan, Jacob Collier, but of course, the biggest fandom that I consider myself to be a part of is all things Broadway.
Hi, I'm Carolina. I am a third-year advertising major and the incoming operations manager for external communications at the agency. I'm part of way too many fandoms to count, but a lot of them are very similar to Mackenzie and Ginny's, such as like Harry Styles, Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, a bunch of different stuff. But also, like Blake, most importantly, I am a Broadway fan.
So we gotta know, what made you both such a big Broadway fan? How has it really shaped you as a person?
That's a long story, Mackenzie. But for me, I started doing like little shows at like my elementary school when I was like in kindergarten. And for me, how theater has like shaped me, it was really the first community that I found by myself. So I had been a part of like many other like fandoms because like my mom, because of like movies she showed me or books like she read with me. But theater was like the first thing I found by myself. So I really found a home with it like really fast. And I felt like a pride in it because I was like, I found this thing that I really like and I'm kind of good at it. And it was really sweet. I started doing like community theater when I was in second grade because my elementary school music teacher was a conductor. And he was like, oh my God, you have to audition. And I did it until I graduated high school. I was in it for a long time. I was doing probably over like 1,000 volunteer hours per year. I spent all my time there. But theater taught me just a lot of things about life. It raised me. It taught me how to like be a part of something bigger than myself and like contribute to like a group, but then also to take care of myself. Like it's a huge thing in like the theater community. Blake will probably know, but like backstage, it's always like take care of yourself, get your own costumes ready, get your own quick changes ready, get your things you need to take care of done, and then go help other people. But that's like the second part is also really important. Like take care of yourself, but also be sure to help your community and help those around you. And yeah, it just taught me some very valuable like life lessons. That's all I have to say. Blake?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in the theater. I grew up a theater kid. I am a theater kid. I started when I was really young. I would go to a theater summer camp every year, and I would do a full show that we would put on and get, go audition and get cast in a certain role. And that shaped my experiences. I actually went on to go to an arts high school where I majored in musical theater. And so that's what I was doing. I even started my first year of college in a BFA musical theater program. So it really shaped me. I am a theater person. It's interesting because I feel like growing up in the theater and having that sort of performer lifestyle shapes you in both positive and negative ways. For me, I got so much experience being confident outwardly and being such an extroverted person. But at the same time, I always look for that external validation from other people because the life of a performer, you are valued based on other people's opinions. So a lot of multifaceted aspects to growing up in the theater, but it ultimately made me who I am today.
Yeah, I had a similar, I feel like we all started like when we were like very young in theater. I remember my mom showing me Popular from Wicked and that being like the first like Broadway song I can like remember hearing. And then she put us in musical theater classes and like I was in second or third grade. And so grew up in it. But the external validation is so true because like I was an ensemble girly. And like, I'll stay with it, like ensemble, it's fun. You have so many friends that you make in there and it's like it's a lot less pressure. But I think like confidence wise, it kind of knocks you to like not get the lead role when like your friends are getting it. And so, yeah, I definitely seek external validation. And that's interesting. I never equated that to theater, but that's probably where it comes from.
Well, it also creates, like you were saying, when, you know, there's some jealousy or maybe some relationships that could get negatively affected if your friends get cast in a role that you really wanted. But it also causes an environment of competition, nonstop competition. Like you always have to be on, you always have to be ready for something, and you're always putting on like this mask to other people.
But what I think is cool is like at the end of the day, like amidst like all the competition, like during auditions and even like throughout the show, like at the end of the day, like when the show happens, you kind of have this bond of like, we did this, we put this together. It was like a full group effort, from the costumes to the lights to the director, like assistant directors in high school. You know how you had other high school students like helping out with that, and the cast. And so that's what I love about theater, is how collaborative it is, even
really
amidst like all the competition.
Right?
Like it really is a community of people.
Wait, I actually want to add something to that, because I did theater a little bit when I was little, not like a ton, but I grew up a competitive dancer, and all of this is the exact same thing. Like, it's actually kind of crazy, the parallels, because like you said, with like quick changes, like you need to help yourself before helping others. That is a huge thing that they tell you. But also like the external validation, the internal competition, because like I was very close with my dancer friends, and it does kind of hurt your feelings when they get a special part or a solo and then you don't, or you're in the back of the line. It really knocks your confidence, and I think that definitely still is like present with me today. But you know, I think there's other things that we can gain from like our experience as performers. But so I just wanted to say that's so interesting. Like I didn't realize how similar it really is.
Like piggybacking off of like the things everyone has already said, but I've made some of my closest friends in theater, and I've also lost some of my closest friends because of theater. And it's so like crazy that like the external validation even comes into play, because it's of something subjective. It's like talent is subjective, art is subjective. It's whatever you think it is. It's whatever you like want it to be. Some people like some things, but then don't like other things. And then even when like in theater and casting, it can come down to like your height, your hair color, like just how you look next to somebody. So it's things that are just completely out of your control, but yet you like beat yourself down like all the way. You're like, oh, I didn't do this, or I'm not this. So it's like so crazy. But, you know, also like going back to that community, like even though there are negatives, like your friends are always there because they've also been through that shared experience. And that's what kind of makes like doing a show like so like thrilling, because you do have this like family beside you at the end. And even though there have been like some people that I may not have like agreed with or like not gotten along with in my theater group, at the end of the day, I'm like you're my family. Yeah. Like, because we've just not trauma bonded, but we've gone through this very like deep emotional thing, put in so many hours and worked really hard to like make a show. And it's like a feeling that I haven't found like again. Yeah. It's so incredible.
So do you have any like favorite shows or moments from doing theater or just from watching Broadway?
1,000%, Mackenzie. So my favorite shows are Kinky Boots. I love Hairspray. Those are probably like my top two, like just like of all time. I also love In the Heights. I'm obsessed with In the Heights. I don't talk about the movie though. That's a completely separate issue. The musical In the Heights is very important to me. And then in terms of like moments, I really loved in high school. I loved competing. I loved going to districts and going to state. It was so fun. Looking back at it now, state is very scary to like an outside person, because all of the Florida thespians would just gather in Tampa, and it was just a group of high school theater kids running amok in Tampa.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. Like we are every single corner. And it like, I can't imagine like being like a normal Tampa citizen now. And like that week comes where they're just like, oh, dang it. They're here. They're coming. I was on Twitter when states happened this year. And like, I realized it was happening. I was like, oh God, I hope they're ready.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Yeah, some of my favorite shows include Heathers. That's probably my favorite show. We got some Heathers merch over here. Aside from Heathers, I also really love In the Heights, the musical, of course, the stage musical. I also really like Dear Evan Hansen and pretty much anything Pasek and Paul.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have any favorites as a non-theater?
I feel like I haven't seen enough to make like a final judgment, but I also do love Dear Evan Hansen. I saw that on Broadway in like July 2019 when Andrew Barth Feldman was so Evan, lucky. And I like love him. He's so talented. And that I feel like that musical really like kind of shaped me for that year. I was like, oh my God, relatable. Like it was just like, I was moved. I also really love Kinky Boots. Newsies is really fun. I just love anything that has like really powerful like dance and music numbers because I just love good dance, I have to say. And if they have a really good voice, like that is like mind blowing. So that's kind of what I look for in a musical, I think.
Mine's Newsies, in case anyone here didn't know.
Wait, give me the mic. Yeah, I have to talk to camera here. Ginny is obsessed with Newsies. She was going through her old merch here. She had like a little diary and she has a whole page just written with Newsies quotes. She has her like Newsies ticket stubs on the wall somewhere. Like
I've seen Newsies on Broadway. Not with Jeremy Jordan though. It was with Corey Cott, but we love Corey Cott. They did like the one that's on Disney Plus now was in theaters for a little bit, and I saw it in theaters. I've seen it on tour, and I'm hopefully seeing it in London this summer. And I have my ticket stubs from every single one of those, even the movie. So we're a Newsies girl.
You can say you're a fan.
I might be a little bit of a Newsies fan. I don't know. Jerry's still out, but yeah, they have such great dance numbers, and the songs are incredible. Like there's not a bad song in that show. Yeah. I also love Dearman Hansen, clearly. And Pascal Paul, like Dogfight. I love Dogfight. So, yeah, I have a lot of favorite shows, though. I can't just name. Oh, Moulin Rouge. Oh. Recent one. That's a good one. Yeah. All right, guys. We've talked a lot, but I think it's time to get into the real nitty gritty here of being a Broadway fan. Stunt casting. Okay, we've seen some successes with stunt casting, some failures. Mackenzie, if you don't know, stunt casting, or fans, if you don't know, stunt casting is when you bring in a celebrity to play a role in a Broadway musical. One of my favorites has been Sabrina Carpenter in Mean Girls, even though she only got to play it for 2 days. She was Katie Heron. So what are your thoughts on stunt casting?
Stunt cast. Where do I even begin, Ginny? It can be done so beautifully at times, but then it can also be a disaster. Also, the definition of stunt casting is really weird because you have these people who maybe grew up in the theater and haven't done it, like Josh Groban, who really has loved theater and has really been vocal about his love for theater in his entire career. He released like a whole like album, like cover album of songs from theater. And then he was in Great Comet. So would that be stunt casting because he had a career outside of theater? Or is it just like an actor or like a performer coming back to like an art form they really loved as a child? But then there's some other ones, like Nick Jonas. He was in the Les Mis like 20th anniversary filming. The musical it's most notorious for stunt casting, Chicago. Everyone's in Chicago. Every single celebrity you've ever thought of is probably in Chicago. Actually, wait, one more point. I have a note on the Mean Girls stunt casting of Cameron Dallas.
This I'm aware of.
Conspiracy theory. I have a conspiracy theory. So picture this. You are the Mean Girls casting director and you want to cast like a young, relevant, like male. You think, oh, what's something recent that happened like in the past like 10 years? MagCon, right? And you're like, well, I need like a brunette MagCon boy who can sing. Shawn Mendes. I believe that they meant to cast Shawn Mendes in Mean Girls the musical, but someone got like the notes messed up and they ended up casting Cameron Dallas because there is absolutely no way that they would cast Cameron Dallas. Like if you guys haven't seen him, watch it. They literally had to edit the show to take out some of his singing lines because he was so bad. Yeah. And people were laughing at him in the show. I felt really bad about that. And singing with Renee Rapp, anyone's gonna look
his
bad.
Harmony, like he just doesn't sing it. It was really bad. It was not great on their part.
Like obviously next to Renee Rapp, anyone is gonna look like really small and just not talented at all. But like it sucks. I felt really bad, but
I was a MatCon girl, I have to say. That was my thing in middle school. Yeah. But I just didn't know about that. But that's so funny.
So I'm actually taking a course right now through UF on producing for commercial theater, and from coming at it from that angle, stunt casting can be extremely effective, especially when you're trying to make that bottom line and you're trying to make a return on the investment for all of your producers, all of your investors. It can bring in a good audience who wouldn't necessarily come to Broadway. And I think that is where the stunt casting kind of can be an extremely positive aspect of the casting process if it's done tastefully. If you cast someone who should be playing that role, but happens to also be a celebrity or a famous person, then it's amazing. But from a production standpoint, from a money standpoint, it's one of the most effective ways of marketing your show to a wider audience.
That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And even if, like, you know, since Cameron Dallas didn't really get the best publicity with him being in Mean Girls, some people might go to watch it just to like hate watch it. Like, that is a thing. It's like a big thing just in entertainment. So I guess there's that too. But
And it's just like when Lea Michele hopped in Funny Girl. People were going like dressed up as Sue Sylvester to recreate the moment from Glee when Sue Sylvester walked out on. People will go to hate watch a show. People will go just for like to say, oh my gosh, I saw X person in this.
Yeah, but like Lea Michele is a great example of like someone who knows how to perform. Like she's clearly perfect for that role, but it also was like the perfect stunt cast because of Glee. You know what I mean? So like the majority of the time it's successful, but it's really funny when you have a situation like Cameron Dallas where it's like, what were you guys thinking? Also, I don't really know who that was bringing in.
So we've talked a lot on the show about social media and how brands are kind of using it to reach a different audience, and specifically TikTok is really popular. I know I've gotten a lot of like Broadway show performances on my For You page, and also just like I've heard some different songs from different shows. So what is your experience with social media, the fandom? What's that like?
So really the first online like fandom that I really joined was a theater one. It was for Star Kid. And if y'all don't know, Star Kid was like a group of theater students at the University of Michigan who just like put on like a bunch of different little shows. I found them because I was obsessed with Harry Potter, and I obviously found a Harry Potter musical. And that kind of really like introduced me to like this kind of like really big world of like online theater and like different forms of theater outside of Broadway and like the mainstream, which I think was really cool because it introduced me to like a lot of different like forms, like interactive, immersive theater, or theater on like a smaller scale, like in a little black box theater rather than like a main stage Broadway production. And I don't know, like that was like where I first like I ran my first social media account it was a Star Kid fan page. I ran an Instagram account and a Tumblr page. I'm not proud of it, but look where it got me now. It led me to my career pretty much in social media. And I mean, running like a fan page, it takes discipline. You know, you got to come up, you got to be creative, you got to come up with the ideas. And it teaches you a lot about like the inner workings of social and interacting with a community. Definitely had many mutuals there. People would interact with me and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm making online friends. But it was really because of theater. And also just another point about Star Kid, they really made like theater like accessible, which I think is a really like big point when you talk about like Broadway as a whole, because you can't like access it at any point. You know, there are a lot of people who are in like minority communities who cannot access theater, or who are too poor to like go to New York or go to like a show to see like high quality like art, you could say. But theater like of that quality does exist at like every level. So I think it was really cool for them to like bring something funny and like share it with everyone, because I think that's like a really cool part about theater is that it can be enjoyed by everyone, no matter your economic status or your background. Like theater is just, I don't know, I really find that connection prevalent in social media because we can all like connect with each other about these stories that we like, that we see on stage. I think it's really cool. But I think we have a different point on social media and musicals that we have to talk about, right, Blake?
Absolutely. And that is
Slime tutorials.
For those of you who don't know, a slime tutorial is a bootlegged video that someone takes from an audience perspective of a professional production and then uploads it online. It's called a slime tutorial because it used to be called a bootleg, and people would just say Hamilton bootleg, for example, before Hamilton was actually a thing. Then people caught on and it started to get taken down because of copyright issues. And so people would upload them under a different name, like video of a green girl singing or slime tutorial. So that's kind of what it's colloquially. That's what it's colloquially.
Colloquially?
That's what it's known as.
We'll keep all of that in.
It'll zoom in every time.
Yeah. Just the frustration, like. That's really interesting, and that's actually really funny how they were like, wait, we're gonna get them. They're never gonna know that this is actually Hamilton. It's just a slime tutorial. Little do they know.
Yeah, and even though it's frowned upon typically in the theater community because you're expected to go see a show, to pay for it, to buy a ticket, to sit in the audience and to interact, to clap for the actors as they come on stage, etc. However, like you mentioned, with accessibility issues, I think there is that upside of young people interested in theater, or people of any age who are interested in performing or just seeing theater, who don't have that opportunity to go visit somewhere like Broadway in New York, or maybe not even a local theater, a community theater. They have that opportunity to use the internet and watch a slime tutorial of whatever show it might be. Now, they can be hard to find. You got to look for them. Link in description. Kidding.
There used to be like Tumblr pages that would have all of them, but a lot of those like don't exist anymore, like those like videos, because they do take them down. Like they will find the slime tutorials, they'll find like all the like weird ones. But yeah, that's why I'm grateful they're starting to do like the recordings of shows and putting them online versus like just forcing people to buy a ticket.
Yeah, with all the pro shots. There's one of Heather's from the West End production, that Hamilton. There's a ton.
Newsies. So there's a lot. They're trying. I think there's a move to make Broadway more accessible, but yeah, I've watched many a slime tutorial myself.
And then I also have to talk about, on social media, there are these amazingly produced videos from the University of Michigan, called the BFA Senior Entrance videos. And I grew up watching them when I was in high school and I was auditioning for BFA programs. I was like, that is what I want to do. They're so good. Just having a rewrite, essentially, of a medley of Broadway songs and theater songs that they would rewrite for purposes of like introducing young freshmen to the theater program and welcoming them in from seniors. That was really cool. I love watching those online.
I also think just like a big thing across the board on social media is just with TikTok and the sounds that trend on TikTok. There are so many that come from Broadway shows and that people don't realize it. And as like theater kids, we're like, guys, that's like a Broadway song. And so it's, for us, it's like really funny to like see them trend. So like Heather's trended for a while. Six. Beetlejuice. Like there's just been a lot of like trending sounds.
In the Heights.
Yes.
From the movie, unfortunately. Usnawi, all night, you barely even dance with me.
Don't make me laugh. I've been trying all night. You've been shaking your ass for like half of the Heights.
Real nice.
So like a lot of TikTok has like the sounds have come from Broadway shows, which I think is really cool. And a lot of shows are starting to get TikTok pages. So like Shucked the musical, they had the corn kid interview people on the red carpet because it's a show and it talks about like corn, like it's like from the Midwest. It's a show about the Midwest. Which I don't know. I don't know much about the show, but they had the corn kid like come out and like interview, and he was there. They like came up with a funny name. I'll tell you what it is and we can insert it. But like he had like the best like title of like what he was doing. So even there's fun things like that. Shows are starting to get on TikTok more as well to promote to the younger audience, which I think is cool.
And we can't leave this topic without briefly mentioning that there was a musical that spawned from TikTok. The Ratatouille, the musical. Yeah.
I bought tickets for that.
You bought tickets?
Yeah. The funds went to like a good cause.
Yeah, I did go to a good cause.
Give us the review.
It was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like that started from a TikTok trend, like that was completely like separate from musicals, and then it became a musical, which I think is really fascinating too. Inspiration can really come from anywhere, guys.
And like kind of controversial with the Bridgerton musical too. They put out a whole album, like, and that's incredible. So it really does, because I think TikTok allows for you to create art on the platform. It's really been a great thing for Broadway, I think, and theater in general.
Art can come from anywhere. Stop being pretentious.
So there's misconceptions within most fandoms, and we've talked about that, with sports, being a Harry Styles fan, just honestly any fandom that we've really talked about on this show. And I'm sure that's the same for theater, I can imagine. So what's kind of your experience with that? Has it been hard? What is the misconception, I guess?
I think from a larger pop culture perspective, so many people don't understand the hard work and dedication and true talent that people in theater have. They just might not get accredited for it on such a global, pop culture scale. So it's kind of frustrating to the community when things like Katy Perry's recent episode came out on American Idol, when she there was a Broadway performer, a gorgeous singer, had a lovely voice, and Katy Perry's feedback to her was, "I'm gonna smack the Broadway out of you," and like she said, "You can be saved from the thespians," which she might have been doing that for the stunt, for the show, for the reality TV of it all. But at the same time, it creates a negative misconception of Broadway people in general. And then people start to just look down upon that style. Most pop stars and amazing singers with the longest careers have some sort of roots in Broadway or in theater. Ariana Grande. 13 the musical, like she started there, and she is one of the healthiest singers. She has such a gorgeous voice, and she's going to continue to have a long career.
Yeah.
So
also a lot of actors have a theater background. So like these people that were all like, oh my gosh, they're so attractive. Oh my gosh, I love them. They're so talented. Like probably were theater kids growing up.
Yeah.
So it really just like is shocking. Taryn's behind the camera pointing at her Spider-Man shirt. Tom Holland was a theater kid.
Billy Elliot.
Billy Elliot.
I won't really explain it.
Or a lot of actors will go do like a short-term thing on Broadway, whether that's for stunt casting or just because they want to do live theater. So it's really interesting that we have this perception that like theater kids are like crazy and, you know, gleeks, if you will, versus, which I'm sure Glee is part of the reason why people have that perception of theater kids, but which is funny because they're show choir kids, not theater kids, but so many actors and actresses and singers have a background in theater.
even from Stranger Things, Gaten Marzano.
I mean, all the kids of Stranger Things. Sadie Sink was Annie. Wasn't Caleb was in Lion King, I think, when they were all little.
Young Simba.
Yeah. I mean, they're so talented and they were hired for a reason. And they were so amazing on that show when they were little. But yeah, they all started on Broadway, which is insane.
It's just the conception of it all from outside people and from pop culture in general, that they just view theater and Broadway so differently than like West Coast or LA based entertainment, traditional entertainment, film, TV, music industry. It's viewed so differently because it's niche. But, and I think you can talk more about this, theater started pop culture in general. Like every piece of entertainment at some point can be traced back to theater, vaudeville, live shows in general.
I mean, it started off in vaudeville in the 1920s, like the top 100, like the Billboard 100 of the 1920s was all theater songs. It started the Broadway's not Broadway, but New York's economy. It was a major revenue factor, drawing people there. Literally everything can be traced back to Broadway. And even if you think that another misconception is that Broadway is for the rich white old men, because that's typically who used to go to the theater. But Broadway is for everybody. There's a part of theater in every piece of pop culture. It's existed throughout the ages. We talked about how now it's in TikTok and for the common people, even though the theater kid derogatory term is being used more frequently nowadays, people are still partaking in theater without even knowing about it. And life is theater, there's so many things that people wouldn't necessarily qualify as theater, but I'm it's a performance. You are performing every single day of your life. If you go up to give a presentation in class, you're performing. If you are in an escape room, you're in immersive theater. Literally.
You're not wrong.
We've talked about this in one of my theater classes. We had a big debate on whether escape rooms were theater.
Because you're now a character.
You're now a character. In some escape rooms, you become a character in the story. Yeah. And so it's you're playing a part. You don't know you're playing a part, but you're playing a part.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that is a very important conversation to have. So thanks for bringing it up.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Blake, Carolina, thank you so much for coming on to Fan Take, and thank you so much for watching.
To keep up to date with the series and see who we bring on next, make sure to follow us on all of our social media at the agency at UF.
And always remember,
and I'll stand there with the wizard. 5, 6, 7, 8.
They say the neon lights are bright on Broadway.
On Broadway.